Today's outcrop of the day is this creek with this bright orange coloured oxides on the surface and these white crusty deposits around the waterline. Now, that can happen in a lot of places where there's saline groundwater and the white deposits are salts. But that's not the case here. All of the other creeks here have normal clear water or dry with no salts. So this one's really unusual. These white bushy crystals growing on the surface of the rock here are sulfates, probably of potassium, calcium and sodium, and the sulfur to make those sulfates is probably coming from oxidizing sulfides somewhere nearby. And given the amount of it, there's probably quite a lot of sulfide. The cations, sodium, calcium and potassium, probably come from the leaching of the underlying rock there, which is a rhyolite, and the iron from the remaining sulfides probably ends up as this jarosite and goethite, the orange precipitates on the surface below. Well, there's a clue for that right there. So I'll just break a little piece off this vein here. So you can see all that dark grey to black material along the edge is sphalerite, and this more bronze, brassy coloured material in here, I'm guessing is pyrrhotite. Yep, that's just a little bit magnetic. So massive veins of sulfide, and you can see all this yellow colour here is jarosite precipitating after this gets oxidised. And that's what's leaking all the sulfates, that's sulfate there, into the creek here. But that's no way enough to make all of this sulfate deposit coming down the creek. So I'm thinking there's a little bit more to it, and I'm going to go up the creek a bit. And sure enough, 50 metres up the creek, the orange staining comes to a halt just about here, and here's a huge boulder of gossan, and just up there is the outcrop. So here it is, outcropping on the side of the hill. It's about 1 metre wide of massive gossan with lots of jarosite and goethite, probably after a vein similar to that one down there with massive sphalerite and pyrrhotite. But even this isn't enough to explain all that yellow and brown staining down the creek, so that suddenly got a bit interesting. So when you spot a bunch of bright orange deposits in a creek, particularly when it's got this white, crusty, fluffy surface around the waterline, take a little bit of a look further up the creek, particularly if that's unusual for the area where you're working.